Welcome to a very special historical explainer. Today, we're doing something a little bit different and honestly, a lot of fun. I want you to step into a virtual time machine with me. We're going to set the dial way, way back to the year 1135 and set off on this amazing journey to conduct a personal interview with Rabbi Moshe ben Maimon. You probably know him better as Rambam or Maimonides, literally one of the most brilliant and influential figures in human history.
Here is the math for our time travel itinerary today. To make sure we don't get lost in the 12th century, we've set up 6 stops for our personal interview. We'll trace his incredible journey, ask him what Judaism is according to his view, break down the 13 principles of faith, discover his secret behind the mitzvot, learn how to walk the golden path, and finally take away his ultimate compass for life.
All right, section 1, the journey to Rambam. Let's dive right in.
So to really understand the sheer genius of this man, we've got to look at where he came from and what he went through. His life was intensely dramatic, stretching all across the Mediterranean. Rambam was born in Córdoba, Spain, in 1135, to a very respected family of judges. But, well, his life was anything but peaceful. By the time he was just 13, brutal religious persecution forced his family to flee. They were constantly on the move, escaping to Fez in North Africa, then to the land of Israel, before finally settling down in Egypt. Then, in 1177, absolute tragedy struck. His beloved brother David, who financially supported him by running merchant ships, drowned at sea. It was a devastating loss. Out of that deep heartbreak and simply needing to survive, Rambam threw himself into studying medicine. And he was so incredibly gifted that he quickly rose to become one of the top doctors in Cairo, even serving as the personal physician to the famous Muslim leader Saladin. He eventually passed away in 1204 and was laid to rest in Tiberias. It's just wild to think that out of so much pain and life as a refugee, one of history's greatest minds emerged.
Moving right along to section 2, what is Judaism according to Rambam?
So here we are. We've arrived at his bustling clinic in Cairo. Just imagine the scene. A crowded room full of patients, eager students, maybe even government officials waiting for his advice. We grab a seat across from him to start our interview, and we ask, "Who are you, Rambam? And what is Judaism according to your view?" And his answer is absolutely fascinating. He doesn't go for anything mystical. Instead, he explains that the image of God is actually our intellect. For him, being made in the image of God has nothing to do with physical shape. It's all about our amazing capacity to think, to use logic, to investigate nature, and to learn science. Basically, Rambam sees us as the universe's detectives. When we study physics, biology, or astronomy, and we start to understand the sheer genius of nature, we're actually getting closer to understanding the genius of the Creator. For him, acquiring wisdom is literally the highest form of spiritual connection.
Which brings us perfectly to section 3, the 13 principles of faith.
Now that we know how much he values human intellect, we move on to what you could call the conceptual ways navigation of Judaism, the absolute bedrock rules everything else is built on. So we pose this crucial question to him. How do you explain the 13 principles of faith to the audience? Because remember, back then there was a lot of confusion. People desperately needed to know the fundamental baseline of what it meant to be part of the Jewish story. He was actually the very first person to take the entire Torah and distill it down into a clear, concise ID card of belief. So he answers us, saying, from my 13 principles of faith, here are 2 absolute foundational steps. First, God is not a physical body. Forget what you see in the movies. God isn't an old guy with a white beard sitting on a cloud. God is an abstract, infinite force. Second, the Torah will not change. It is eternal. The huge takeaway here is that these principles are timeless. They're just as perfectly relevant right now in our modern world of smartphones and AI as they were back then. The foundation simply does not shake.
Okay, section 4, workout for the soul, the secret of the mitzvah.
But, just having faith in your heart isn't quite enough, right? We shift into the practical side of our interview because we really want to understand why there are so many daily rules and actions, 613. That's the total number of mitzvot. Now, at first glance, that massive number can totally look like an endless chore list or just a bunch of arbitrary rules meant to make life difficult. But Rambam, he saw it completely differently. He didn't see a burden at all. He saw a highly effective, comprehensive workout plan. It's essentially a daily gym routine designed specifically for your soul and your character. And these examples brilliantly illustrate what he means. Every single action has a precise psychological purpose. Take the daily act of giving charity. When you give just 1 coin to charity every single day for a month, you aren't just helping someone in need. You're actually training your own heart. You're building a muscle of generosity and compassion. Or think about the strict rules against gossip and speaking badly about others. That's not just to keep us quiet. It actively protects friendships and builds a healthy, supportive society. Every rule is a targeted exercise to make us better, more moral people.
Let's step into Section 5, the golden path, the secret to balance.
Building on this idea of shaping our character, we ask him the million-dollar question. How do we actually live right? We want his best practical advice. We ask him to explain how the golden path balances life in such an intense world. How do we deal with anger, our fears, our relationship with money, and our diets today? Rambam paints this fantastic picture for us. Imagine a tightrope walker. On one side, you have the extreme of miserliness, someone totally stingy, holding on to everything. On the exact opposite side, you have being a spendthrift, just throwing money away recklessly. If you lean too far toward either extreme, you're going to fall off the rope. The ultimate wisdom is finding that middle ground, the golden path, which in this case is healthy generosity. You shouldn't deprive yourself, but you shouldn't act completely out of control either. It's all about finding that careful, deliberate balance in every single emotion and behavior.
And here is the real kicker. You literally cannot separate the mind from the body. As he famously sums it up, a healthy mind in a healthy body. Rambam, speaking as a deeply experienced doctor, believed that physical health is an absolute prerequisite. Think about it. You can't concentrate, you can't learn deep wisdom, and you definitely can't be a patient, kind person if your body is exhausted from lack of sleep, poor nutrition, or zero exercise. Staying physically fit isn't some extra luxury, it is a core part of spiritual growth. Finally, Section 6, the compass for life. Let's look at his legacy.
As our time travel interview wraps up, just take a step back and look at the sheer scale of the legacy he left behind. It perfectly captures Rambam as a famous doctor and philosopher, as well as a master of Jewish law. On one hand, you have a masterpiece like the Mishneh Torah, which brilliantly organizes all of Jewish law. At the exact same time, he writes a profound, complex book like The Guide for the Perplexed, meant to bridge deep philosophy with faith. And right alongside those, he authored no less than 11 medical textbooks, packed with practical guidance for healing and healthy living. That rare, almost unbelievable ability to seamlessly bridge strict religious law, open-minded philosophy, and practical medicine is absolutely phenomenal. We're hopping back into our time machine now, but we are absolutely taking this powerful, echoing quote with us. God is the great, hidden, and loving force that gives life to everything. This entire journey shows us that Judaism, through his eyes, isn't just a list of rules. It is a complete, holistic system for intellectual growth, character balance, and physical health. So, before we go, I want to leave you with this question. Out of all the 800-year-old wisdom we uncovered today, whether it's using your intellect to explore the world, working out your soul, or walking that balanced golden path, what is the one single principle you are going to take and apply to make your life better starting tomorrow morning? Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey.